Hey, thank you for joining us for the live demo of LubePM. So the whole goal here is for you to understand what the platform is and understand how it can help you holistically with your lubrication program. My name is Wesley Cash. I'm here with Bennett Fitch. Bennett, you want to introduce yourself and kind of give us an overview of Noria?
Sure, thanks Wes. So I'm Bennett Fitch. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Noria. And just take a step back real quick before we jump into LubePM. For anyone who's not quite familiar with who Noria is, I just want to share a little bit there. So Noria has been around for over 25 years. And the whole time our vision, our focus is all about curating knowledge and sharing it to the industry, focusing on lubrication. That's our expertise, our ability to help train people through machinery lubrication trainings or oil analysis trainings. So we have also magazines like Machinery Lubrication Magazine and our website, the same name, machinelubrication.com. It's been a resource for these past 2 decades or more to help share that information to everyone else around us. But we have a lot of other things that we're focused on in the industry, including our Reliable Plant brand. And that includes our conference, the largest reliability conference every single year. And that's a way for others, even outside of lubrication and oil analysis, to be able to share what they know and their stories, including end users telling their case experiences of what's worked and what hasn't worked. So that is our ability to curate knowledge, but we also want to help create solutions. And our solutions have been around helping end users in the plant provide lubrication program development services, or LPD. So we talk about that quite a bit in what we train every single day because we understand what works and what doesn't work based on the various solutions. And to take that even further, that's where LubePM came around, because LubePM stands for Lubrication Program Manager. It's a lubrication management system, or LMS. And so that's a tool, it's a solution for anyone who's trying to kind of get through the hard aspects of running a lubrication program, both the management aspects, at your desk, trying to build it all together, and also in the plant itself. So that's why lubrication kind of stands out in those areas.
Now, when it comes to LubePM, we want to give you a good overview and kind of a demonstration of how LubePM works. So with that, I've got LubePM pulled up, and as we log into it, you're going to see a dashboard. And at your dashboard, you're going to have your metrics, you're going to have your KPIs that are important for your lubrication program. And really, if we wanted to start about managing a lubrication program, we usually think about the day-to-day tasks. What are we actually doing in the field? How are we going to make sure that people know what to do? How can we assure that it is getting done? And really, we're going to start here with our routing features. And the routing features is what most people may have in a notebook somewhere. Maybe it's a printout or anything else. But this is where we are actually going to assign the work to a technician in the field. So with LubePM, you've got both the web platform, which we see on my laptop, and you have the mobile app. The mobile app is available for both Android and Apple devices. So you can put it on a phone, you can put it on a tablet. We've got an iPad. We typically use iPads here at Noria. But this is the interface of the technician in the field. So here in the routing tab, you're going to be able to see a listing of tasks. You're going to be able to plan your route, basically build the route itself, and then we're going to schedule it. And one of the features that a lot of people like tend to be this calendar view. So let's say we've already created a route. With this, we can now see, all right, what work is currently being done, what work is currently assigned, what work is coming up, or unfortunately, if there's late things, they are highlighted as well, because we know that there is no shortage of work to do in a lubrication program. And that's one of the key reasons that a LMS, or a lubrication management system, is preferred over like your CMMS. Think about the number of tasks that you're going to be doing. Think about the periodicity of those tasks. A lot of these lubrication tasks, they're going to be daily, they're going to be weekly, they're going to be monthly. It's a lot more aggressive of an interval as opposed to a traditional PM, which may only kick out every 6 months or yearly or anything else. So here in our example, we're going to say, well, we have a route, and this route is assigned. We're looking at it here on the calendar, but what does it actually look like in the field. So Bennett, why don't you kind of go through it?
So of course there's a LubePM app, like you said, it can be on an iPad like this, could be on your iPhone as well, or any Android device. But when you get into the LubePM app, it's designed to be able to help the person performing the daily activities, know what they need to do, understand the information for what lubricant goes in there, how to follow the procedures themselves. So for example, here we have a couple routes downloaded here. And if I resume the one I'm currently on here, you see a number of tasks. This is a route that goes sequentially from what would be reasonable for the route to walk through in the facility from one to the next. Now these tasks, they give you information about where to locate the actual asset. And then once you click on any particular task here, such as this one on a gearbox, gives you a chance to see all the details and materials, the tools, and jump into whatever that might be. In this case, it's an inspection. So for example here, it's going to ask you several general inspection questions that need to be identified on the gearbox itself, such as are there foundational or structural integrity concerns. It's going to walk through various examples of what might be a concern or what's not a concern. So it tells you not just what's normal, but what is considered abnormal. And then as it jumps into maybe the oil level indicator itself, not only just the oil level, which is the key part, but also the color, if there's any inherent sticky or hard surface deposits, wear debris. And when you're not sure whether or not what they mean about wear debris, you can click on that as well, and it'll say, okay, well, a moderate amount of wear debris might look like this on a magnetic plug, showing you a little bit of the wear debris on the magnet on this sight glass. Or if it's a bit of sediment on there, what does a minimal amount or no amount of sediment in there look like? So there's various examples that are shown, including the what questions to ask for headspace inspections and more, depending. It's dynamic, so it works based on what current modifications are on the machine to let you know, okay, for this version of a machine, these are the things you need to look for. And it can help you also take pictures of what you see while you're in the plant, so you can look at those later on to compare with the current state.
I think that's a key thing, right? Is this tool allows the technician to give you direct feedback of what they're finding. They can do pictures, they can do notes, they can flag things, and that is going to be able to be pulled up in the web platform for review by a maintenance manager, reliability engineer, whoever's actually managing the lubrication program from the office. Right. So sometimes that information gets lost, especially think about paper-based, right? Someone writes a note on paper, hands it to you. I mean, unless you're going through every sheet of paper to look for those notes, that's where you can miss some of that stuff.
So this is not just about compliance, which is a key part about that. It's also about making sure we have very objective information about what was found, and then doing something corrective about it if necessary. But the LubePM app will also make sure if a task can be performed right there and then to correct something, it gives you that option and lets you identify that result.
Yep, absolutely. Now, the app is more than just routing as well, and we'll get into some of the other features, but I want you to be able to see, the field component and the web component, because this is two sides, this is hand in glove. So Bennett has just completed his route, and now we're going to be going back into the website to see what's going on. So you can see here the route and task compliance tab. So we can see, all right, all the work that is ready to do, all the work that is done, what is late, and you can also customize this, right, based upon different dates, based upon different compliance levels. If we're looking for different tasking or different assignments of who's actually out there doing it, what actual tasks are getting done, what's due, what's not due. So it gives you the ability to really drill into the specific, not only route level, but then the task level, which our route is just a collection of tasks that are assigned, and it allows us to see exactly what's going on. Now, beyond all this, we can also get down here into the alerts page. And the alerts page is going to say, well, if we found something that is actually abnormal out in the field, we're going to be able to see it. The first landing page here is incomplete tasks. So if someone skipped a task for whatever reason, it's inaccessible, something like that.
Which is always the first question that's asked when you're doing an inspection. Is it even accessible?
Yeah.
And so that's a question we get a lot from customers is, does LubePM have an ability to make sure that we're not losing track of those tasks that couldn't get done for one reason or another?
Skipped or whatever it may be, right? And it's not just inspections, right? It could be re-greasing, it could be oil changed, right? Let's say you're going to go change oil in this gearbox, but that machine's running when it was supposed to be down. we're not changing that oil. We're going to skip that, but we want to be able to track it, because if the PM came up and it says you need to change this oil, now we're just kind of delaying that, and we don't want it to reset and wait the next 6 months or a year or whatever that may be.
So it automatically adjusts to all of those fluctuations, including letting you know what tasks are still needing to be get done that are now currently past due.
Yep, and those are what we would handle those in what we'd call a one-off function. So we'd select these tasks, we'd create what is known as a one-off route. So these incomplete tasks then get assigned, because let's say we've been doing a lot of work in sawmills here lately, right? To where they say, all right, well, we've actually pushed back our shutdown window, 2 days. So we're just going to do that one-off route. 2 days from now, it's assigned. Now we're caught back up on our PM cycle.
And the great part about putting together these routes is that you can organize the task based on if it's running, if it needs to be running, or if it needs to be shut down, or any other variation of the running state, so that you can properly schedule those at the right time.
That's it. Now, the second part of this is the inspection data. So if there are any issues associated with something you found in the field, a low oil level or something running hotter than normal, now this is where it would pop up and it would tell us, hey, something's going on, in which case it could alert us, depending on what it is, to where we can take a corrective action. In the app, it gives you the ability to take corrective action immediately, but there's also an associated corrective action. But let's say that we didn't have the ability to correct it right then. At this point, this is where you could create a work order, you could reassign work, if it is lubrication related. But if it's not lubrication related, this is a great reliability dashboard, right? Hey, we see that it has been trending, up over time, in terms of temperature. May want to trigger either vibration analysis to go out there, take a look at it. We may want to, take it down and swap over to a pump, but it gives us a lot of data here at our fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of information that isn't just about what you're doing from a lubrication standpoint. It's a bigger picture of keeping machines running, reliability, the overall asset integrity, and tracking that holistically over time.
So this is how you can utilize it, right? This is how you can use the LubePM to help holistically, not only your lubrication program, but your reliability program. But the simple fact of the matter is, right, yes, we're looking at a lot of data here. That data has to get in there some way. So why don't you talk about the ways that we can get data into LubePM?
Absolutely. So there's a few different approaches, and currently most sites will already have an asset register or something that holds all the asset information. And if that's in a pretty good state, we have a chance to be able to import that data after a little bit of manipulation of anything that could be considered incorrect at that moment. And go ahead and start using that data to automatically populate the recommendations with what's the lubricant that needs to be in there, if it needs to be a change, or hardware recommendations, and then automatically assigning all the procedures associated to that. But if that's not the case, we do have a very sophisticated approach to collecting all the necessary information about your assets through the engineering design of the LPD process. And there could be some versions in between that, saying that if you have some complete and some not properly collected, we can work with you with those two options.
Usually I tell people, right, there's we can come and do it turnkey.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself if you feel like your data's good, or there is a help me do it where we do it together. So three main ways that this can happen. Now, what I like about the data that is collected in LubePM is, as you can see, yes, we all have an asset hierarchy. We can see how it breaks down. But as you start to drill in, now you're starting to notice, hey, we've got actual asset pictures here. We've got nameplate data here. So this now serves as a repository that is easier to upkeep, in a lot of cases maybe more accurate than a CMMS as well. Think about this in onboarding of new people. Bennett, you haven't been out to this plant very often. Maybe it's your second week on the job. And I tell you in this case, hey, you need to go out there and check mixer number 1. Well, which one's mixer number 1? Well, now we've got pictures that actually showcase it, and additional features such as mapping can show you how to get to it as well.
Correct. And that's always been an item of LubePM that isn't necessarily what LubePM's core is about, but has created huge value to the user of LubePM because of that very reason. LubePM is not just about managing lubrication activities, but helping people from the very beginning of learning how to do things right, whether it's finding their asset correctly with some pictures or other reference information, or like we talked about earlier with inspections, teaching them what to look for, what's considered normal and abnormal. So it's a very kind of holistic tool for how to manage lubrication.
That's it. Now, as we start drilling down, because in lubrication, we don't look at it at the machine level. We start breaking it down to the component level. And then beyond that, now we're looking at a specific maintenance point. And if we wanted to take a look at maybe like an electric motor, right? The electric motor is the whole component, but where are we actually lubricating? Well, we got 2 bearings, right? So we look at 2 different maintenance points. We drill that down to like gearboxes where we're taking care of the case, maybe a shaft seal. And I think this is where Bennett was talking about some of the data that is collected with this. So in this example, we are now looking at the actual gearbox, and you can start to see different things about this gearbox. You see the little exclamation point here? This is recommending an actual lubricant change. So maybe we're changing suppliers, brands, or maybe through some calculations or maybe just failures in the field, we're saying, we probably need to use a different lubricant. Well, this is all managed in LubePM as well. So currently, it's saying that we're using this in Lube 220. We're recommending a change to this SHC 632. And we can also be able to see, if we have a tagging system in place, what the tag would look like to be able to manage this change, saying we're going from this lubricant to this lubricant.
And Wes, that's a key area of lubrication, is making sure that we're always putting the right lubricant in the component and never making a mistake there. Otherwise, there's risk of cross-contamination.
Oh, of course.
And especially for grease components. But here, looking at a gearbox, and it's not unusual for walking up to a gearbox and being unsure what the oil is that's supposed to be in there currently, and whether or not there may be a label at all or no labels. Yeah. So having a way to verify what's on LubePM as the current label and checking to see if that label is on the machine gives you a quick check before you're actually performing that task. So the same thing is shown on the app as well.
Or the normal lube tech is on vacation, someone's backfilling, and this isn't documented, what lubricant goes where. Now we've got a place where that goes.
So this is more than just a lubricant identification, it's dynamic. So if you were to make changes like you're about to show here, going through from the current lubricant to the recommended lubricant, once that's put into the machine after a proper change procedure is performed, it automatically will update the master lubricant list. That's right. Lets you know, okay, now we have one more component that's using this lubricant and one less that was using the previous. So rather than having a static document somewhere or printed somewhere that might get outdated over time, this is automatically being updated as you make those changes.
Not only is it automatically being updated, but I like to use the term breadcrumb. Okay, at the bottom of each page, there is a log of activity that says, all right, at this date, this person changed this data or this lubricant or anything else. So it's basically keeping a log of what has changed in the database. So if you wanted to look back and say, it seems like we did something different a while back, or who changed this, or we can now have that data. So it's not just a database that migrates over time. It does give you the breadcrumbs. And I guess this is probably a good place to talk about kind of roles and responsibilities within the program as well, because LubePM does offer different levels of permissions, if you will.
Yeah, and we can add as many users as necessary, whoever's involved in performing different tasks. But there, like he says, there's a variety of roles and the responsibilities associated to those roles. And it could be as little as just viewing data, get view-only access. Or someone who is going to be performing the task might have some ability to authorize a task that was completed and the changes that might be associated to that. But there's also an ability to have a master access to make any change necessary. But regardless, it's still being tracked, showing who made that change, when the change happened, like you were saying, with that logging system. And there's all variations in between those different levels currently that can be adjusted if there's a particular need for one person to have some kind of access.
That's it. Now, in association with the lubricant, there's also the hardware aspect. So you said, all right, well, we say that a lubricant has been changed. We update this globally. The hardware is the same component. Let's say that we go out to this gearbox, and in this example, we're saying the headspace, right? That the current breather is a desiccant breather. No change is required. If we look at the oil level indicator, it says that it's using a dipstick. We don't like dipsticks. And we're recommending a column level gauge. So right now, the inspections are going to say, all right, you're using a dipstick, right? When you make the change, you can actually update it and say, all right, we have now changed from a dipstick to a column. Your inspection automatically changes as well. So it keeps your inspection data and your task data incongruency with what's going on inside the database.
So, Wes, at the beginning, we kind of talked a little bit about how LubePM is used as a tool to perform your routes every single day.
Yes.
Now, here we're looking at a scenario where it's more of a tool for implementing change. So,
Sure.
Right next to the proposed hardware item is a current status of where it's been approved. Now, explain what that means so that
Sure.
we can let someone know who's making several changes in their plan over a course of months or even over a year. How can this tool be used?
So let's think about it this way. Maybe you've got a lube tech out there that is saying, hey, we know there's a better sight glass, or maybe there's a better breather or something for this machine that's sitting in an environment that needs these types of pieces of hardware. Well, they can recommend a change, or let's say that they bring us on site and we're reviewing the overall asset integrity from a contamination control, from an inspection standpoint. We recommend a change of hardware. Well, those are recommendations. Now, from there, it is really a situation where we want to have a talk with the people that manage and own the equipment of saying, hey, while we recommend this change, do you think that it's going to be applicable? Do you agree with it? In which case, they can accept the change. So this has gone from a proposed state to now a approved state, meaning we have now created a modification task. And those tasks are one-off, right? So we're changing from X breather to Y breather. We're changing from, in this case, a dipstick to a column level gauge. And then once that is actually performed in the field, we can say, all right, hey, we have changed it. It'll be updated. And at which case, now all of our procedures are updated with the appropriate hardware.
So automatically it changes the procedures. Not only was that modification procedure made available as soon as it was authorized or approved, but once the procedure was completed, then it changes anything that might be associated to, including an inspection. Inspection will now have questions automatically added that refers to that sight glass.
So you can think about it as it's recommended, it's approved, then it's changed.
Right.
Now, if you deny the change, saying no, that's actually not going to work, it goes away, it stays at the current state, we're good to go at that point.
Okay.
Now, with the actual hardware and with the actual tasks, this is where we get into the procedure aspects of things. And the procedure, if you think about this is the documentation of how we're going to do the work. And this is becoming so important for many facilities where we have people with decades of experience that are retiring, that are leaving the workforce, and we've got people that are backfilling these positions that don't necessarily have the same level of experience or maybe know the level of care that is needed for these assets. So now we're taking that and we're making them in step-by-step procedures. Now, these can be modified based upon the amount of time that it takes to do it, because if you say this procedure takes 10 minutes and in the field you're finding out that it actually takes longer or shorter, we can modify this as well to keep your tasking at an appropriate level for your staff, but also the interval in which it's done. So we calculate intervals, but some people may want to change interval based upon known conditions in the plant. So we can change that as well. The text can also be changed as well. These procedures can be customized. Now we have a library of procedures that we have written over the years that are step-by-step procedures, how to grease something, how to change the oil in something, how to inspect things. Let's say that you have a different task to be done that isn't one of our in our library. You can create a custom procedure. Maybe you have a different format, so those can be uploaded. And whenever we think about the actual operating conditions, inspection data, we have a lot of different opportunities to put different data per asset. So we can start looking at trending over time. And when we think about media, this is where we can upload maybe it's operation manuals, service manuals, maybe it's actual videos of something to go on. So
past records of what work that's been done that maybe wasn't digitized back then, but now we want to have a way of just recording that.
That's right. So other things that are pretty useful in here, the site lubricants, you have touched on this a little bit. So we've got a table of what lubricants are used, how many applications that lubricant falls in, as well as the total volume of lubricant for the machine charge. One of the key metrics that we talk about is a consumption ratio. Well, how much of this lubricant is actually in service in the plant versus how much are we buying or using in a certain amount of time. So this gives us a way to, you can think green, right? Because we're now saving lubricants. We're actually, managing the lubricant inventory a little bit better, as opposed to just, relying on a supplier, someone to just drop off, or having to order, expedited, because we need it now. We can now plan things because we actually know how much of the lubricant we need.
So right now you're in a page that, like you said, lubricant list. This is master across the entire site. You have a similar page for hardware, but all these pages are more macroscopic, looking at the data of lubrication overall versus previously you looked at a particular gearbox and the data associated to that, which is what you might see on even the mobile app as well. So you have two ways of looking at it: individual machines, the individual trees, or the whole whole aspect of lubrication across the entire plant, like the whole forest.
Yep. And if you think about the lubricants, we say they want to be easily identifiable. So here where you see a tag, you can upload your own tags. We can help you build tags. There's a lot of availability there.
That's all built into that.
That's all built in, right? And yes, you did mention about hardware. So, I mean, there is a whole other tab around lubrication hardware showing us how are we going to change it. How many different recommendations are there? Different types of breathers. It's broken down into breathers, and we start going down here: bottom sediment water bowls, grease accessories, oil level indicators. So this is holistically across the plant, and then we can drill into individual things. So in this case, we're saying, all right, well, we need some 3D sight glasses, right? We've got 4 of them that are proposed. Where are they actually proposed? There's our 4 applications. So we can do kind of batch approvals, if you will. It doesn't have to be one-off. You can say, yep, we've got the sight glasses. Let's go out there and let's do it. If we don't have the sight glasses, you can also go over here to procurement, and now this will actually help you select them. So the sight glasses that we need, we can look at what's actually doing, and it provides a picture as well as a link to where you can go and actually purchase it.
So there's a generic specification. When I say generic, it's still very specific. It tells you the size and exactly what type of sight glass or breather and so on, but not necessarily showing what brand is out there. But this tablet gives you at least some idea what options do exist in the market. So if you're trying to figure that out and build out basically a list of what can be sent for a bill of materials to procure.
That's right. The last tab that I really want to get into here in the data section is lubricant analysis. Lubricant analysis is a great condition monitoring tool. It gives you kind of the status of the asset, how it's doing, as well as the status of the lubricant, which has an impact. And here you can see everything has a cleanliness and a dryness code associated with it. So this is the contamination side. When it comes to sampling, what type of sampling hardware is recommended? So maybe different sample devices. It could be actual sample ports on machines. And then when we get into the actual procedures of how we're going to do this, it starts to walk us through the entire sampling process. The key to good oil analysis is good sampling. So we're enabling good sampling right here. But other condition monitoring, such as ultrasonic regreasing, is available as well. So let's say that you're using some ultrasonic device to tell you when you need to regrease. Well, that data can sit in here as well, trending over time, basically saying, all right, how often do we hit above our levels? So all of our lubrication stuff can all reside in one place.
Yeah, it's very, very all-encompassing of how lubrication should be managed. So you took it initially from how it might be used every single day with the routing tools and what's been shown on the app itself. So there's 2 ways of accessing, main ways of accessing LubePM. Then you kind of covered all the various aspects of how to implement changes that are best practices in lubrication, whether it's lubricant changes, hardware changes, best practice procedures, and having a way to integrate any of the current procedures that are still need to be done with custom procedures.
That's it.
But most, those of who are using LubePM might just need to know where they're currently at today with their current lubrication program and go through a whole holistic lubrication assessment, or what we call the Ascend assessment.
That's right.
And so that's why you kind of show it there on the dashboard there, but there's a tab there called Assessment. And this is a place where you can monitor your current score and go through various opportunities of initiatives to get some quick wins and then prioritize the next activities. But as you make strategic changes in your lubrication program, you can track the history of that over time.
Yep, and this is what we call the simulator. So if we're actually trying to modify our lubrication program, we can look at these different initiatives, these key initiatives that are being done. So in this case, let's say that we want Nori to help us, do an engineering design. We can see how that modifies our score from a 16 to a 39, starts to impact all these individual elements. But let's say that we want to do some of this ourselves, and let's say that, all right, we're going to focus on our lubrication routes, doing better inspections, and getting our sampling procedures under route. You can start to see how this modifies. But with anything that we select, we generate a to-do list. This will actually give us a step-by-step, or basically all the little key elements that we need to focus on. So not only does lubrication help you manage your current lubrication program, it can also help you get to a better state of lubrication overall. The assessment, the plant simulator, a great place to do that.
Yeah, it's a great place to start for sure. This is the Ascend assessment based on the Ascend methodology. There's 40 factors that kind of encompass all the important areas of how to design and build and manage a lubrication program. There's a lot of information you can find online about how that works. And that's kind of where, this takes it from beginning to end. LubePM is all about not just assessing lubrication programs and implementing changes, but running it holistically over time.
All right, I know that there are a lot of questions around LubePM, so we want to address some of the commonly asked questions that we get. And first and foremost, Bennett, I want to talk about integrations. This is a big key word that a lot of people use. I'm already using a CMMS. How does LubePM tie in with this? I don't want to necessarily just add more disparate programs. So talk to me about implementation, or not integrations, and what that looks like.
So, of course, LubePM is designed to be able to have the opportunity to connect to different systems. For example, we can communicate right now with Maximo to be able to transfer data. Usually those those APIs will be based on the customer needs. So what kind of data is necessary for it to be transferred? And after that's kind of defined, it's basically a configuration of what needs to be set up to communicate one way or another. And that can be set up as equally with SAP or other systems, as that it gets needed, or even with oil analysis laboratory data.
That's right.
So that's all an opportunity with LubePM.
And there's also the key question of, from the customer, where do you want data to reside? Because do we need LubePM to push data somewhere? Do we need LubePM to pull data? Does it need to go both directions? So that's a deal. So whenever it comes to integrations, yes, it can be done. We have the API features like anyone else has API features, but it does need to have a little bit of a conversation of exactly what data is important.
It's always a tough question being asked, okay, what are the chief complaints that you might have working with current customers in LubePM? What would be some thoughts there on what you might hear back from some of our customers?
Well, I think, all right, so thoughts back. A lot of people are usually worried about onboarding, right? It is learning a new platform. What does onboarding look like? Yes, we have training. We have all sorts of material to help them with onboarding. And typically, people, once they actually get into it and they don't view it as scary, it's very intuitive. People can actually use it, fairly quickly. In terms of complaints, sometimes there's complaints about the communication within different platforms. So, LubePM is going to have a variety of data in it that could be useful in other platforms. So, hey, we want to have an integration or some interface with another platform. I'd say that would be among the top of complaints that I see.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we always work through those, of course, because we understand that whatever system they're currently working with, it may be a more modern Maximo or SAP or Infor. It could be something that's been kind of dated for a little while and maybe more difficult. So that creates a little bit of a challenge at times to make sure it works well with LubePM.
There's hundreds of CMMS out there, so each one would have to be a little bit unique.
That's correct. So there's a question here. Is there a capability to show route adherence to highlight any missing tasks within a route?
Oh, absolutely. So a route is a collection of tasks. So you can set a route as completed even if you didn't finish all the tasks, because there may be tasks that have been skipped for one reason or another, but we do have the ability to pull up the individual task level what was done. Okay. So if anything was skipped, absolutely.
In LubePM, if an issue is found in the field, can it be flagged and automatically created as a work order outside of CMMS?
Okay, so 2 parts to that question. An issue is found in the field, can it be flagged? Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, that can be done very easily. That's built in, native to the inspections. Also, anyone that's walking around that has the LubePM app, I mean, they can basically do an ad hoc inspection or something. So if they see something, they can throw it up there. It'll be on the alerts page. The alerts can be set to send emails to you, weekly, daily, monthly, whatever it may be, weekly. But the actual sending, to a CMMS to create a work order, this all comes back to the integration things. Does it do that out of the box? No. Right now, it flags everything in LubePM for you to, make some sort of corrective action too, right? Some of them, they may take corrective action immediately in the field, which it can be checked off in the field that it's done. But if you need it to send and create a work order, it's not going to do that out of the box. But we have the capability to tie in to make it happen.
It'd just be a configuration request, putting together the scope of work of how that communication would happen.
Okay, so one that people ask me, because we are now in the 4th industrial revolution or whatever we want to call this, but sensors are becoming more and more prevalent in the field. And lubrication sensors aren't as widely accepted as something like vibration, but talk to me about LubePM as it pertains to sensor information. Can that be driven into LubePM?
Well, like we talked about already with oil analysis data and ultrasound data or inspection data, it's designed to take in those conditions as a condition monitoring tool to manage and help create the next step action that's necessary. So sensors would be in that category as well. If we have data that can be collected, it is cloud-based, so there's definitely an opportunity for that information to be communicated to LubePM so you can watch how trends might occur. And that's definitely the case. There's so many sensors out there and different capabilities. And for example, if there's lubrication sensors telling you if the oil level is high or low, or there's changes in the chemistry, that would be very important for what LubePM needs to know so that we can take the next steps. But once again, that would be a configuration of how that data would kind of get communicated to LubePM, but it's definitely, since it's all cloud-based, can definitely be organized.
Now, another thing, people have asked, can I use LubePM for things outside of lubrication? This could be operator basic care, it could be other things that, while it's not necessarily lubrication, it is tasking that you're expecting someone to do daily, weekly, or something like that. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a very common question, because those who see LubePM in action, they realize, wow, it's a really easy to use tool, and even the inspection, it's so simple how to walk through what is considered normal and abnormal. Well, the main way in which you can kind of build out any activities outside of what the lubrication might entail is through the custom procedures. You can add various steps in there, various things to look for, and schedule that on a route or any other way, just like any other task within LubePM. And like you showed through the earlier demo of being able to store documents on the other media area or pictures that are being tracked, that's a way to kind of catalog anything that is beyond just the realm of lubrication.
Now, when it comes to availability of information for someone that may be new to lubrication, LubePM has procedures. And what other information available to help educate the people or make sure that they get the job done correctly?
Well, they always have the picture to at least make sure that they're in the right machine, first of all, which is very important. But they can also reference the raw data of what that machine, like the RPMs, the bearing types, the type of environmental conditions that might currently be in place when they're making decisions, the regrease volumes, regrease intervals. There's built-in calculators for making sure that's all being scheduled appropriately and volumes identified appropriately. And the list goes on. There's all kinds of data, including current hardware, current lubricants. So everything is available. And if something does change, it's not a static data or a text field that can't be modify with just a manual entry. It's automatically being adjusted. If you change a lubricant because of a different task, it's automatically going to show that correct lubricant in that procedure or just in the data of the asset itself.
And talk to me about video-based procedures, or what is commonly called task-based training, because we see that in association with LubePM as well.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you asked that, because that is a very important part of LubePM, is ability to understand the procedure, not just from walking through it step by step, but watching the procedure being performed. So that, like he says, task-based training is telling you who should be doing this task, how it should be done, where it should be done, and what way the procedure should be followed, what kind of machines might need that task, and why. Why is that task important? And so once you understand all those aspects of a task, then you can really get prepared to perform a task correctly over and over as it goes on. And those videos are all built into LubePM.
And I think that's important, right? Because not only does LubePM provide you a written procedure of how to do the work in the best way possible, but if the written procedure still doesn't make sense, there's a video component to this, to where you can basically watch the procedure being done with a narrative of, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's why you should do it this way as well.
Very, very much so. Okay, so one or two more questions here. Let's look at a couple here. So oil analysis is a key part of lubrication. Can oil analysis be pulled into LubePM from a commercial lab, and then how would that kind of work after that's being collected?
Yeah, so oil analysis data, right? There's a couple different ways that data can come in. The simplest of one is if you get a PDF from a lab or something like that, that can go directly into LubePM right now. You can hang it in there and basically build a repository. If you want the specific data as a data stream coming in, because most labs use what they call LIMS data, right? Laboratory Information Management System, right? You can think of that as a string of numbers. It could be a CSV file or something. And this is where the integration component would actually come in. So yes, we are already working with different commercial laboratories to get that data migrated in to where it's basically seamless, to where, hey, we're pulling in data. If they want the laboratories alerts to show up, we're going to get those alerts to show up in LubePM, and eventually we'll build our algorithms as well to where it's not just their alerts, it's Noria's alerts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, one more question I want to ask you, and I think this is important because those who do ask it understand the value of this, but until it's asked, you might forget how important it could be. So this is related to QR codes and RFID tags. So those things that might be in a machine currently or not, can LubePM work with those codes, or have a way of letting the technician have information, quick access because of that code?
Yeah, so barcodes and QR codes native to LubePM. Perfect. We don't do anything with RFID tags right now. But barcodes and QR codes are incredibly easy to associate within LubePM. You just take the app out there, you go up to the machine, you tap the component. If there's a barcode on it, you scan it, and now that association is made. You can also purposely print them or anything else. So, I mean, yes, we can handle that. Very easy to do.
That's a great, especially for the routes, just making sure that you're at the right machine and you're going from one machine to the next. Sometimes it's difficult to know, okay, is that the right machine to be doing this task on or not? So
now you know.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any more questions about LubePM, you can always contact us, and you can also go to LubePM.com, schedule your demo, and get direct access to other materials around LubePM. There are articles out there, there are other demos, there are plenty of videos. We're creating quite a library of media and content around LubePM to help you manage and evolve your lubrication program moving forward.